Hey, Jen.
Hey, Dana. Hi, everyone. Welcome
Welcome
to
to Hypnosis.
and Beyond. Today we have Morgan Englund. He's a keynote speaker, sound facilitator, first responder, singer, and songwriter.
Please share with all of us a little bit about, who you are and how we all got to get together here, and let's hear about all things Morgan.
I've just done a couple of TEDx talks. My mother was a actress, pretty famous actress, but she had three older boys, and then 6 years. They were all 2 years apart. 6 years, then me, and then 2 years of my sister. And when I was 4 years old, my mom, horrible relationship with my father, and she just basically took off. She just started working, and she took my sister with her. So I learned a lot of survival skills growing up. I was going down a pretty bad path until I found football, kind of by accident, and it just sort of really focused me. It gave me like discipline, this brotherhood, people that you just die for, um, and that was an incredible feeling for me. I was playing football through high school and went to college to play. I had a kidney injury, which just ended that, like, done. At that point, I was at the University of Colorado in Boulder, and that was my dream to play in the snow, um, and it just ended instantly. That was in the '80s, and there were a lot of alcohol and drugs involved in those years. And I ended up getting into acting, something I never thought I would ever do because my mother was an actress, and it's like Charlie Sheen. You're going, oh, how did that guy get his job? I mean, that's what we all think, nepotism, and my father always really drove home the point of earn your keep. So I got into acting, and just it was like fish in water. I went to New York, studied there to be 3,000 miles away, and kind of have my own career and everything. I ended up getting a soap opera, which I never wanted to do. I wanted to be a theater actor, a serious actor and stuff. I ended up doing that for like 5 years, and I finally quit the show. I was in a rough marriage, and I didn't want to raise my kids in New York. So I came back out to LA, and the marriage fell apart, and I knew I had to take care of my kids. Like, I needed something steady, um, and so I just had this idea popped in my head about when I was a kid. I always looked up to search and rescue people that sort of put it on the line for other people. I just thought, what higher calling could there be? And so I got into ski patrol, and something I loved, and was good at, and thought I really loved doing this stuff. And so then I wanted to be the best I could do to, offer the most care and service. And I became a paramedic, and the money was not very good as a private paramedic. You were doing the 911 calls, we meet fired there at the scene, but we're running on the medical and stuff. Um, and fire departments where the money was. But that was a real decision because the whole culture, the whole is just hard. And I really needed to make a decision. Do I want to get into this? Because I knew what I was getting into. And I did. I got into the fire department, and I did 14 years there. And by the end of it, I was just um, not in a good place. I found myself burnout, angry, isolated, just, and I thought, this is no way to live. I don't know. I'm not a religious person, but God or whoever, a creator, gave me this life. Something gave this gift to me, and who am I to squander it or let other people squander it? The light that we're born with, each one of us, this life just piles shit on top of it until you can't even see that light anymore. And I think if you're lucky enough, you get to an age where you realize that, and you realize that you have a choice, that no matter what situation you're in, you have a choice to um, somehow change it. And I I called my mom one day. I was off duty, recovering from a double hernia operation, and I was going to say, I need to break up with my girlfriend. And what came out of my mouth was, I need to quit this job. She goes, why don't you then? Like, what are you talking about? You don't do, nobody does that. No, well, I thought about it, but it's just you don't do that. And it's your calling, it's something you love. And so I just took a look at that and made the decision. And by the time I got back to work, I just told my captains, I'm done, man. I'll give you 6 more months and we'll call it, thank you for the time. I left it on good terms and I took control of my own destiny, which is, I don't know. I seem to be the kind of person that jumps off the cliff and then tries to make the wings on the way down before before you hit bottom. And the first few years were really rough. And actually, um, I was driving one morning, going nowhere, and I couldn't see tomorrow. I just could not see myself alive tomorrow. I didn't have any plan or anything like that, but tears were just rolling down my face. And I guess I had, whatever you want to call it, PTSD or dealing with some stuff that I brought with me and childhood, it all becomes one thing. So I'm driving. My mother has not called me in the last 2 years. I mean, I know that she physically could dial the phone. She'd have to get somebody else to do it. My phone rings. It's her. She calls, hello. She goes, what are you doing? I said, I'm driving. Where? Nowhere. Come over to the house. And I'm like, no, 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 not today. She kept calling me. Are you on your way yet? On your way yet? And it's like the third or fourth time I finally I knew, and I picked up the phone. I said, okay, I'm on my way. Because I figured she's 91, you know, and everything going on. So, um, so I went over there and I don't even know if she said a word the whole time, but I came in, kissed her on the head and sat in the chair and I just started just gushing. Like it was sobbing. I had never done that. I don't even know how to do that, but it wouldn't stop. And she came over and all of a sudden her hand was on my shoulder, just there for a long time. I was like aware of her thinking, how did she, first of all, get out of bed? Second of all, come over the way and it's still standing like that. As things started subsiding, she left the room and she came back in and she kind of grabbed my hand and led me into the bathroom. She had warm water running. And she motioned me to, rinse my face, and I did. And she handed me a towel, and then she had this she brought me into the living room or the dining room, and there was like this plate with fresh cucumbers and tomato, and just a little olive oil and lemon drizzled over it. And it was like that first bite of food from the earth.
Yeah.
It's like life coming back into me.
Yeah.
And so that began my I think that's where I would say my journey of healing started. Before then, it was just trying not to die.
Yeah. That's beautiful, Morgan. That's really, we're so honored that you would share that with us. There's so much there, and I I feel that we could we could just ask so much more, but I know everybody is so interested in knowing if that was the first step, how did you decide what your next step would be, and what did you do?
Well, that night she sent me to this woman, really cool lady. She did these things called infaceuticals. It's supposed to, it's like this just drops that you take, and they're supposed to have a frequency that does something to you. Um, she has these one drops that she said, if I give you, because I got to the point where I had so much anger, and my father was so angry that I just choke off right here. I mean, I could feel my just shut it down. And she goes, if I give you this stuff, you're not going to be able to keep your mouth shut, and you're probably going to get in trouble. I mean, in trouble with people. Just
Yeah, sure.
and she did, and I don't know what the stuff is, but that I didn't know anything about frequency or very little about frequency and its connection. And and just everything about it. But those infoceuticals, they had a frequency that activated or connected with whatever frequency was happening in my body. And I'm just actually realizing this now, but it actually, that journey started with kind of frequency. And that has been a through line of my healing process, of my spiritual belief system, coming to that, just everything. But Tesla said, if you want to know the secrets of the universe, think in terms of frequency, vibration, and sound, or I think, but it's all about the frequency. And so we became friends, and I'd see her, and I went to her a few times. So that was sort of one little thing. I went to transcendental meditation. I was just looking for ways to to talk to God, to connect on a higher level or deeper level, or have some connection to my environment, the world around me, to find out what that was, to discover it. There were some gurus. I tried ayahuasca and kambo, um, and my sister and I told you my mom just kind of just bailed. She just took her and left. She was just gone. So, we haven't necessarily been close over the years, and our experience is polar opposites, completely 180. She's like, "Oh, remember the childhood?" I'm like, "No, you were there. I was at home alone." Many years ago, my sister had this boyfriend, and my mom might have had some stroke. Something was different. She needed more help than she normally ever did, and my sister just kind of took her, and to live with her and kind of cut everybody else out. And finally, I asked my mom, I'm like, "Are you okay? Is everything great?" And she's like, "Yes, it's wonderful. They treat me amazing." And I said, "Okay," and this is like 10 years. I said, "Okay, I'm going to stop trying to save you. You're a big girl. You made your decision. You know about everything going on. So, I'm just going to let go and be here for you and with you." And that allowed my sister and I to start to um, be okay with each other. And then they moved down to San Diego. She sold the house right at COVID and everything. They moved down there, rented this place. And I came down and I saw my sister was just completely overwhelmed with all my mom's stuff, taking care of my mom, her daughter, the dogs, the thing, the house. I was like, oh my God. So I was just down there every chance I got, helping her out and, being with my mom. And that was the last 6 months of my mother's life. And, and, so after my mom died, my sister moved to North Carolina. I went out there to kind of help her out with something. And we were driving. She's driving, and I'm sitting in the passenger seat. And she's driving fine, but she's like da 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 da, And I'm seeing the semi that we're next to blowing a tire, slamming us into the wall, pitching us over into the oncoming traffic. Or when we're coming up to the intersection, that guy that's about to turn left in front of you, and I'm just, kind of telling her, look out for this. Look out. Why? Well, I'm telling her the stuff that I'm seeing in my mind. It's like, you are fucked up. And I said, okay, whatever. Um, and so I get home, and she called me and told me to show up at this house in a couple days, the next day, and wear comfortable clothes. And I met this little guru guy named David from Israel. And it turns out he was ex-Israeli Special Forces. I didn't know this till years later. But he brings me in, and says, I'm going to give you some mushrooms, magic mushrooms, and some MDMA. I've taken mushrooms before, but never MDMA. And okay. So, and then we're going to lie down, we're going to do some breathing, and then we're going to do this sound healing, sound meditation. And he tells me about it and stuff, but I can't understand a word he's saying. It's hilarious but he puts you at ease. And so he gives me the stuff, we do the breathing, and that alone, I mean, that'll transport you. Did you do 15 minutes of like holotropic breathing, like belly, chest out, exhale? So then you lie down and you start into this sound meditation, and it's different instruments. Maybe the first one will be the drum, like the Indian drum, boom, 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 and you can just feel the shower of frequency, like going right through you, through the floor, and um, and it stimulates these. So you have things like the singing bowls, like the Tibetan singing bowls, the gong. They're overtonal instruments. They have a whole array of frequencies that go above and beyond our hearing. But everything, every cell in our body, every animate object has a frequency. And even our thoughts, we can think a frequency into existence by thinking, a thought. So the next day, after I did this whole thing, I had developed this fear of flying that I could not get on a plane. I've flown hundreds of times, but the loss of control, the last time I flew, I knew the wing was going to come off. I just didn't, it was when, not if. And it was the most terrifying 6 hours of my life, just keeping it together. And I've done a lot of gnarly things. So it's all in my head. But the next day, I had bought a ticket to take my little daughter to Kauai because I really wanted to show her. And I said, I don't care. I'm just going to white knuckle it. I'll get through it. It's 5 hours. Just, do what you got to do. It turned out the next day, I picked her up at 6 a.m. We get on the flight to Hawaii, and I was fine. That phobia was gone. All these fears that I developed, these little things, and all this hyper, like when I was driving with my sister, like, ooh, the body English, it's like an ab workout because you're just thinking, oh, let's not die here or there or there. Look out for that. So in one night, 90% of whatever I was carrying was just gone. And there's no one and done, it's like this. Uh, but since then, um, I took my son and I went and studied with this guy, David, and the guy that invented the whole thing, a guy named Alexandre Panus. It's the R and E are backwards, so you got to. Um, but anyway, I think he's worked with Johns Hopkins with veterans, PTSD, mushrooms, and psilocybin, and he's an ethnomusicologist professor at Harvard. So this guy's pretty, dialed in. Um, and what I found was that 8 days, it was 12 hours a day. We're talking about ancient sound uh, and frequencies, sacred geometry, all of this stuff working together. The MDMA, what I found out later, they have ketamine's legal to do with the thing, but MDMA is not. And I talked to these ketamine people, but they all told me to a person they would use the MDMA if they could because it lasts longer. You can take it orally, and the effect that it has for this work is that it shuts down the amygdala, the fear control center. So when one of these we all have trauma, right? You're human, so whether it's from childhood, wherever, and they stick in us. They have little frequencies. This is what I've found, what I've experienced, and what I've watched happen. So these overtonal instruments, some frequency will stimulate whatever trauma that is. You may know, you may not even know what it is. But for me, physically, my body will start shaking and start like going into like the worst turbulence you could ever, just hanging on for dear life. Every muscle just for 45 minutes, half hour, 45 minutes until finally my hands start to unclench and and a few minutes later and that thing is gone. And I am at complete peace with that same frequency that it was stimulating me so gnarly for all that time. So my son and I went and got trained in that. He's like a master practitioner. He's elevated above anybody else that I know. And this idea of frequency, what it is and how it manifests in our life and how we can manifest things in our life, just being aware of it spiritually, physically, metaphysically, emotionally. It's fascinating, and that's kind of the work that I don't really want to do one-on-one work. Being a paramedic, it's like one after it takes so much out of you, and you're only helping one person. And I've done that. I've done that, and there are millions and millions of people that are suffering right now. And I'd like to be part of a greater change and a greater uplifting, so that people can start helping themselves. You know, I'll just stop.
Oh, no, that's a very positive message that everybody needs to hear. So we definitely love to hear your obvious passion and your beautiful heart and your desire for the world. I think that the three of us would intersect in this. I know Jennifer does quite a bit of Reiki, and I wonder, Morgan, if you've experienced any Reiki.
No, I haven't, but
Because I
I would
wonder
love
how
to
the
try it.
frequency, how that plays into all of that. So I just didn't know if
Well, I think it's everything, right? It's the transfer of energy. You're not touching the person, right? It's I don't know much about it, but I'm thinking it's the energy coming that you're either pushing or receiving or changing with your own energy,
Well, it's
not
a loop.
physical.
It's like the intention of the practitioner with the client, let's say. And it's the universal energy. It's what we have. We all have access to it, right? And you have the ability to heal yourself. So
Yeah, there are people that are really have the gift somehow to do energy or whatever work they do. Have you ever done kinesiology, applied kinesiology? Where they put your hand out and push it down, and they go like
muscle
this and here, and
testing
then
and
you go.
things.
Yes, that.
Yeah, that's so fascinating,
Like it's
isn't it?
mind blowing,
Yeah.
right? It's yeah. So, but there was this woman I knew in New York. Linda Lee was her name. She had studied with Dr. Goodhart, I think, something like that, the guy that invented it. And this woman, she was so fast. She'd do these hand postures that on your belly to check your organs and things like that. She was just so dialed in. And then there's a friend of mine here in LA that's been doing it for years and years. And I go to him because he's the only one I know. But she had a gift that just, it was so far beyond anybody else I've ever gone to for that kind of thing. I guess that's what I'm saying. I want to find, you know, the somebody that, and you were saying what I'm bringing my energy to it. It's a loop, so I would think you gotta have the right loop partner.
So then how does your feelings about frequency, how does that translate into the music that you create?
Well, that's interesting because I'm more. I look at it more like stories. You know, country music, three chords and the truth. It's just simple kind of stories. And I've actually, I don't know about frequency because I play a chord, and I sing a melody. And um, I'm, I'm not a real guitarist, where I'm playing notes and leads and stuff like that. Uh, but I will say that I somebody's told me about how do you become a great singer or a really good singer. And they said you had to love your voice. You have to love the sound of your voice and singing. And I was like, wow, well, I got a long way to go. But I think, um, I think, again, this is something getting down to your own essence, getting down to your own self, not what other people want, what you think you should be doing, what you're supposed to sound like. But you watch American Idol or any of these things, and it's that one person that's so themselves. They're not trying to be anything else. And it's so simple. And it's devastatingly, just rocks. It blows people away. So I think I've spent a lot of my life, I think a lot as an actor, trying to figure out what they want, you know,
Mm.
and who are they anyway? So
Isn't that
I guess it's all coming down to what frequency you want to live at,
mhm.
and bringing that into your life. And again, it's not linear, but it's if you intend for that, you're gonna manifest that. I mean, that's just the way it works.
Well, it's just interesting. Before you were coming on, I was watching the TED Talks that you were doing, and I was just, it's wonderful that we've heard some of your healing journey. Where are you now with, I guess, raising awareness to what first responders have gone through and how to do things perhaps better? Is that,
I'm really struggling with that right now.
yeah,
Yeah. Um, Also, there was a lot of negativity around this last talk that just came out. Personal, just weird stuff. And when the second talk came out, which was the one I gave it all on that one, this was the one. This is the one nobody's talking about. This is the one, the biggest risk for me, and to really go to um, where the meat is. Uh, and talk about the culture and stuff like that, not just the calls we go on, because that's what we do. That's our job. Um, that's enough by itself. So you add a toxic culture on top of that, and you wonder why people are killing themselves. And it's just, it is so much worse than I've ever even thought or imagined. Now that other people are talking to me, they're like, "Hey, I saw your talk. They're telling me the stories." It is. I haven't talked to one person that has not been deeply affected by the job, whether it's a cop, firefighter, you know. And there's so many other professions too, like this woman in CPS. Can you imagine ripping a child away from its mother, father? I cannot imagine. I mean, I've had to do it lots of times, but if that was my only job to, um, okay, wait, let me get back to your question. Uh, what was the question?
well, I was just wondering like where you're at because you just said there
Right.
was a
Okay.
lot of negativity and stuff. Where is that going now? Like, yeah.
Right. So I think just on a personal level, it it just when I saw the talk, I was really disappointed, and it's on several levels. And that this is bringing up a lot of stuff from the fire department, from the stuff doors that I've closed. And like I said, it's not something I ever thought I would talk about. I told him, no, hell no, I will never do that. Yet here I am. And naturally, the next step is like, oh, well, what's your program to help um, first responders or firefighters that are struggling? And I don't know, man. I don't have a program. I don't know if like I did it. This is it. And I don't know that I'm going down that path. If I choose to go down that path, what does that look like? Do I, become an instructor for the IAFF? No, I don't want to be in some bureaucratic institution, certainly not spouting what they are doing because it's clearly not working. So um, I wanted to my very first talk was about kindness and how that heals us. Our vagus nerve, the hormones, the serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin. Um, that's the message. When I got into the public speaking, they said, the coaches were like, if you could be on the top of the highest mountain, all of humanity below you, what would you shout from that mountaintop if to the humanity if they would act on what you're saying? I had to be kind to each other because most of the misery and violence and everything that I've seen comes because we're just not kind to each other. We just don't. We're isolated, and we all talk about it, but the actual practice, just doing normal everyday things, being aware of other people, and what they might need. I use the grocery store a lot. Taking a thumb high shelf or taking somebody's cart back, just little things you can do, every day, um, to just let people know that you see them, you know. Uh,
And
and that's
yeah, I was just
what
gonna
I.
say, and I wonder too when you talk about toxic work culture, because certainly That's not unique to any one industry, as we all know. I just wonder, you talked so much about breath and frequency, and I wonder if there could be something as simple as a workplace begins a day with a breath together. Maybe it doesn't have to be a program or a process because everybody's somewhere different. No two people are going through the same thing, but we all might benefit from one or two of these techniques. It'd be pretty funny to have everybody drop MDMA and magic mushrooms
Well,
at work.
I actually did a ceremony for one of the a firefighter that I never worked with him, but we've since gotten together and stuff, and he's all into the healing and this stuff. Psychedelics are. Did you ever read this book called Many Living in a Mindful Universe? Eben Alexander. He's a he's a brain surgeon, right? Like top level brain surgeon. He doesn't believe in, all the hooty tooty stuff. He's, you either live or die. You're, he would have patients come in and tell him, I had a dream last night. My mother's going to be fine. Don't worry about it. He's like, okay, if it makes you feel better. But he never took any of that stuff in. Well, this guy gets this meningitis that's almost impossible to get as an adult. Meningitis attacks the neocortex around the brain. And so he gets his form he goes into a coma, and it's like the odds of him even waking up for that are infinitesimal. He ends up making a full recovery after a week. It's miracle. It's probably in the miracle books. And while he was in the coma, he had this near death experience. And he was met by a guide, and he showed him that we move in these soul groups, and each life is a chance for us to leave, learn new things, and we come back in between, and this is where our souls abide. And um, so he comes out, he's like, okay, that could not have happened. Like, I could not have had that experience in a coma. Like, there's nothing in my brain that could have made that happen. It wasn't working, yet it happened. So his whole book's an investigation of how did this do this. And one of the things he studies is psychedelics. And they wire people up in the book, and they're going to check their brain on psychedelics, and they expect it to light up and go crazy, right? Well, it's just dormant, completely dark with like two little red blips in different parts, completely not working. And what he comes to theorize after this whole thing is that the neocortex, as well as making us human and solving things and thought and all that, it's a filter or a sponge or a barrier to the Akashic Record, the universal knowledge, God, basically. The knowledge that he was given through that near death experience. And when I read that, I had taken this stuff called the Iboga root. It's like this African, it's like ayahuasca, but 5 times gnarlier. And it's supposed to help you get off pain pills or heroin or whatever. And I was taking these pain pills. I couldn't get off them. And so I thought, well, maybe this will help me do it. And what I was shown that night while I was on that hallucinogenic was several things. But when I read his book and my experience, I was like, oh yeah, I experienced the same thing. It's just that I did it through psychedelics because it opens that channel to whatever that is, that God frequency or what that knowledge that you just can't and this feeling of love. There was a point in that night where I was out in outer space, and I was so terrified. Earth was behind me, and I'm looking out this way, so terrified, just long story short. And when I felt like I couldn't handle anymore, all of a sudden it's like these hands just caught me. Not me, it was like this love, but it wasn't holding me. It was like every cell of my body infused with it. You can't describe it. You can't experience that on a physical level. But he experienced it. I experienced it, and I think that and that really helped me to sort of form my beliefs, because one of the things that happened was in my hallucinogenic thing, I was in this sort of cardboard box, big one, maybe OSB board, but it was this shabby thing way up high. And there's a circular opening with the flaps, like on a camera. You know how they all overlap and it gets bigger and smaller? There's sort of flaps like that. And there's 4 or 5 people there, my best friends. And I'm on this little sled thing, and they're going, okay, you're going to have the best time. This is amazing. And I'm about to go on this ride. And they're telling me, and listen, no matter what happens, you can't tell anybody that this is just a ride. And I'm like, okay. And what I realized was that I was about to be born, and the ride is life. And that this soul group, these people that were with me, were my soul group. And they're telling me, even if you figure out that this is just a ride, don't tell other people, because, no, it's a secret. So, I don't know, might all sound kind of weird, but experientially, through research, reading, talking to other people, witnessing, uh, all this stuff, it's really let me know that I feel like there's that nirvana, that God frequency or whatever that we're going to get back to. But in this life, we're trying to get to that. We'll probably never get there. But I think the way you live your life, the way you serve other people and the environment and animals and everything, the way that you do that, can determine what sort of frequency you're living in, whether it's joy or gratitude or anger or shame. And coming back to the beginning, it's a choice. So we can change our frequency. We can change what we're thinking, what the thoughts that we're putting out there. We can be disciplined with our thoughts to say, no, I'm not going to think that. I'm going to think this. I'm going to keep pulling my mind back here, because I don't want to live in this. I want to live in this joy and gratitude. I don't want to live in shame and anger. And I really, and I am living this, and it's working. So I hope it's hard to get your mind around, but we really do have the ability to have any kind of life we really want to have.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah, I was just going to say, yeah, thanks so much, because I think this is a really important, like so much of what you've touched upon is so real and authentic. And a lot of men, just being a man these days, I think is also just really difficult to know where you are in that, and I just think it's wonderful that you're speaking so freely and honestly. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I wasn't planning on this, but I just thought we were going to say
Yeah,
hi,
that's how
do
it
this little
goes,
We love
right?
it. We
thing.
love it.
I got to tell you one little, you just kind of brought it up, the men these days. So my buddy and I went mountain biking the other day. I'm 62, he's like, I don't know, 40. And we come around the corner, and well, we can see these 2 ladies on horses. And so we slow down, and then they had moved off the trail, and we're just like, are we good? We didn't want to spook the horses or anything. It's like, yeah. It's like, thanks, like, okay. He goes, are those electric bikes? We go, hell no. He goes, finally, some real men.
Yeah.
Yes.
Bike these
Yeah.
days,
It's
and
like,
it's like,
wow, we spotted one.
yeah. So that
Out in the
really made me
wild.
feel good. Yeah,
Yeah,
I love
for
it.
exactly.
sure.
Awesome. Well,
All right. Well,
and with that, that brings us to our next segment, which is our silly subconscious question. And our
okay.
question today for you, Mr. Morgan, is what ordinary place feels magical to you?
My Meadow. I have I'll answer probably the follow-up question to this too. I got into archery when I was a kid. We played cowboys and Indians, and I always wanted to be the Indian. I never liked guns, and I just loved the whole simplicity and the earth, being connected and all that. Plus, there was that commercial of the guy, the Native American who's actually Italian. We know now,
Mechanized coding.
standing there crying. It changed my life. I mean, um, and so I've always wanted to get into archery, and I never did. And a few 5 or 6 years ago, I just got a bow. I went to Alaska and bought a bow. And I don't know what I was doing or anything, but as I've learned about it, it's just fascinating. I read a lot about ancient warfare and all the archers back in the day. Comanche were probably the best archers we've ever known of, but there's almost nothing about how they shot their arrows so fast, how they held them, how they did all this stuff. Um, all the all the knowledge is gone. The warriors are dead, and they didn't pass that on because it happened so fast. So, I got the regular bow and stuff, but I started learning about the Comanche and how they made their bows and stuff. So I've been making my own bows Comanche style with Osage orange. You take a stave and you take off the bark and then all the way down to a hardwood ring, and then you chase that ring from beginning to end, and that becomes the back of the bow. So it's just all like it's all that one hardwood ring, and it gives it the snap. If you cut into that at all, which just it didn't happen to me. There was a little pin on it, and just I bent it, went, but I go to this meadow. Nobody ever goes there. It's the end of my street. I cleaned out all the mustard plant weeds, and I go and shoot my bow there. I go there and just sit. I watch the hawks. There's a nest there. Watch these hawks a couple years in a row. And yeah, that's where I talk to God, and where I it's so zen, this whole archery thing. Every part, whether it's making the bow and working with you don't cut the wood, you work with the wood, you follow the wood, whatever it's doing. And now I'm making arrows, and that's a blast too. So, um, and it's so simple, it's just a string, a stick, and another stick. That's it. And it just fascinates me, and I love that kind of stuff. So that's it.
Fantastic. Well, and we just have to ask you, beyond what we've talked about today, is there something that you just want to wrap this up and share with the audience, some words of wisdom, because you have so much wisdom to share. So
Okay, thank you. That be kind to each other, but just look out for each other. Look. What I say in my first talk is that when you wake up in the morning before you open your eyes, you're thinking of all the stress. I got to do this, and, you got before all that loads up. Think about what can I do for somebody else today. Think about how looking for opportunities to do kind things. Whether it's just simple things, and it not only changes your own day, but it might change somebody else's day. It definitely will change somebody else's day, and then that's going to change somebody else's day. So, and the chain continues. So that's, yeah, I think I'll close it out with this. My favorite quote from one of my favorite movies, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Be excellent to each other.
Nice.
awesome.
Nice. I love it. And
Well, I hope to get to see you guys again soon. This has been really
absolutely.
cool. I like
Thank
you
you for
both
sharing
very
your,
much.
your time with us. We so appreciate it. And with that, Jen, what do we always say?
Peace out
Peace
All
out.
right.
and be
Peace
excellent.
to each other.
Love it.
And